Good morning. Welcome to the episode of Breakfast Analysis. Today we are rocking a shirt from probably my favorite team from North American Pro League, well, from any Pro League in Season 11, the most recent season, TSM. This shirt my girlfriend got me recently for my birthday, so that was awesome. Today we're talking about GSL, GSL tournament formats. A couple of days ago, very recently as time of recording, but it always takes me a little bit to actually get these videos up. The North American Rainbow Six Twitter posted a 6-minute video really going into what the format's going to look like. They really delve pretty deep into it for North American League, how that was going to end up looking, and what the season will look like for North American League, both US and Canada. And they used the word GSL a lot, which was a little bit confusing for me and the people I was watching with. So I decided to do some research, figure out what GSL tournament structure actually was, and then make a video on it explaining that and describing why I personally don't really think it's the best system for Rainbow Six League or any league for that matter. I think it has its place, but maybe not in a league format. So before we get started, I want to say that obviously, the format maybe could be better from the league, but it's got its ups and downs. I think it's up to personal preference, and I don't want everybody to just scrap their ideas for the American and Canadian leagues, because while they aren't how probably I would do it, I definitely see why there would be advantages to this GSL system, and I can understand why Ubisoft would want to go with something like this. I think it answers a lot of the responses and feedbacks people have had, about best of ones and ties and all that crap. But let's get into it. Let's explain what this is. So, GSL, what does it stand for? It stands for Global StarCraft League. This tournament system is named after the scene that really invented it, which was the StarCraft League. It wasn't first used in the Global StarCraft League, but it was first used in StarCraft, and it was really popularized in the Global StarCraft League, the highest level of StarCraft competition at the time. And now everybody calls it that. It's been used in CSGO. It's been used, obviously, even in Rainbow Six in the past. It's still used quite a bit in StarCraft. And what is it? The simplest way for me to describe GSL in a way that Rainbow Six fans should understand is you've seen it all the time in invitational and major group stages. Every single time we have a major or the invitational with 16 teams, what we have in the group stages are 4 separate GSL groups. That means that we have basically a double elimination bracket where we decide, we can rank 4 teams. It doesn't really work with more than 4 teams, at least, without modifications. And it's able to rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. You play until you either win twice or lose twice. And yeah, if you're not familiar maybe with how Rainbow Six has done things in the past, I'll explain a little bit more. Excuse me. So you start with 2 opening matches. Hopefully this is seeded, so you've got the best place team versus the worst place team, and the second and third place teams playing against each other as well. But there can be some upsets here. But those will be the opening games, and you'll end up having from that 2 winners and 2 losers. The winners then play, and the losers then play. Again, they continue on until we have 2 wins and 2 losses. So after that, whoever wins the winner's game, so whoever's won 2 best of 3s in a row, gets first place in that group, and they get first place in the 4 of those teams. Whoever loses the loser's game, so whoever loses twice in a row, gets last place out of that group of 4 teams. And then lastly, you have the team that won and then lost versus the team that lost and then won in the elimination match, and then that will decide who gets second and who gets third in the group, or who gets third, in the system. So it's a nice way to sort a group of 4 teams, and it's especially helpful when you've got 2 teams qualifying for something, let's say qualifying for group stage of a major or of even a minor, and 2 teams being eliminated right away. It's a really good system for that, and I have no issues with it being used in major group stages. I think that's really where it belongs. So that's what we end up having. So how does that work for the US and the Canada leagues? Well, not super duper sure. There were a few things in that video that confused me even after doing my research. But let me try to explain it. We'll start with the Canadian League because there's only 4 teams, and as we've already talked about, GSL works really well with 4 teams. So the Canadian League plays it just as you mentioned. That's 5 games across 5 play days. So not every team is playing every single play day, not even at the start. And they go through that, and in the end, you're able to rank those teams first, second, third, and fourth. And that's what you've got. Now, keep in mind, this repeats every single stage. So each stage will have a first place, second place, third place, and fourth place Canadian teams. That's really important to note. Also, for the American League, things get sort of doubled up. Obviously, there's 8 teams now. So what they do is they'll run an initial go of GSL into 2 groups. I imagine they'll sort of just be seeded on how Faceit/Ubisoft feels the teams are at. So seeded by the admins, or perhaps they'll be random, but I hope they're not random because this would really not be a good system with random seeds. However, they play an initial GSL bracket, 2 separate brackets, so for 2 different groups. At the end of it, you'll get, group 1, like first, second, third, and fourth in group A, and then first, second, third, fourth in group B. Then they take the top 2 from group A and top 2 from group B, put them in a new GSA group, and the bottom 2 from group A and the bottom 2 from group B, put them in another new GSA group. So they rerun GSA, and then your winners group, I guess you can call it, the group that had the top 2 from the previous groups, will make up the top 4, and those will be ranked, and then the losers group will make up 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So what that means is if you go into the winners group and you lose every single match, you still get 4th in the season, at least for that stage. That means 10 different play days, presuming that's still across 5 weeks, which means they're going to have to be doubling up on American play days, 2 play days a week, whereas Canada's probably getting 1 play day a week. That's a little speculation. I'm not sure that's confirmed for sure, but that seems to be the way that they would do it. And so that's how the American League does it. Challenger League is a whole nother system. It sounds like, they didn't really talk about it in the video, but in the blog post, it sounds like it'll be another system like GSA. They don't use, or GSL, I should say. I don't believe they use the term GSL in the blog post. However, they describe what's going to be happening, a double elimination bracket. So I guess it's not quite the same as GSL, because it is going to be a double elimination bracket over the course of the first 4 weeks. 2 double elimination brackets, again with like 4 teams in one and 4 teams in the other. And then week 5 shows the winners of those 2 going against each other. So you have a first place, a second place, and then tied 3rd and 4th, tied 5th and 6th, and then I think tied 7th, 8th. Yeah, tied 7th, 8th. For that. So it's not quite GSL in Challenger League, but it's basically 2 simultaneous double elimination brackets and in the first 4 weeks, and then 1 just grand finals in the 5th week for Challenger League. And again, that's per stage. So this is going to happen twice in 2020 and then 3 times in 2021. All of that is happening twice and then 3 times. So 5 times over the next 2 years. Okay, then we get into the North American qualifiers. So, again, this isn't meant to be a recap of that video. You should have watched the video already. It's on my Twitter. If you haven't, definitely go check that out. But the 4th, 5th, and 6th place team in the American League after each stage will get thrown into the North American qualifier, and then the number 1 team from the Canadian League gets thrown into the North American qualifier. This is where the video confuses me, because the woman talking says it's a GSL format to figure out who gets to go to the major, but the visual aid to that shows just a double elimination bracket, which are not the same. However, there's a lot of similarities there, in that you have to lose twice to be out of it. So my question, I'm guessing it would be double elimination. It would be kind of dumb to do a GSL style in the qualifiers, because you don't care who gets 2nd or 3rd or 4th. You get what I'm saying? Other than just for points. So maybe they will. Maybe they'll use those points to determine, and that's why. But I would imagine it would just be double elimination. But I don't know. I don't know. They might also just do a double elimination, play it all throughout the way. Yeah, no, it should still just be double elimination, because it would be weird to use GSL, because after the winners match, nothing really matters as much, and that's not what the bracket showed. So I don't really know what's happening in the North American qualifiers for each major, but that might be a GSL style bracket as well. Okay, so that's what it is. That's how it's getting used. Again, it's hard to explain, so I apologize if in that 10 minutes I just made it more confusing rather than cleared it up, but I hope you kind of get it. Um, so what happens now? What are the disadvantages in my mind of this? Well, the first thing is you don't get a ton of matches. We're used to the last couple seasons of Pro League, where if you go back to those seasons, we had 14 play days with 4 matches a play day. That's like 72 games, if my math is right. My math might not be right on that. But I believe it's somewhere around there. Like, it's a lot of games. I guess I have a calculator right in front of me. 14 times 4, 56. 56 games being played out, which is quite a lot. And it's nice because you get 14 days. If you only want to watch one team, you get 14 days of watching your team play. In this, in the American division, there's going to be 10 play days, each with 2 games of play day. Now, they are best of 3s, and that's sort of where that gets made up. So if we say, let's say, 10 play days, each with 2 best of 3s, let's say a best of 3 is an average 2.5 maps. That's approximately 50 games, or 50 maps. So it's a little bit different in terms of the spread. There's a little bit fewer. There's the potential for more, I think, if every single game goes to best of 3. But ultimately, in terms of matches, there's way, way fewer. But they're best of 3s, so in maps, it's around the same. Which personally, I'm not a fan of. I would rather have more best of 1s than fewer best of 3s. There could be very few matches for a team in a year. Now, keep in mind that's per stage. So that's also, I'm talking maps per third of the year, whereas Pro League was for half of the year. So maps, it probably is more going to be. There probably are going to be more maps being played for our new system. However, if you're just taking it in terms of matches, there's going to be way fewer. It's possible and even likely if there's a team in the American division or Canadian division that's just quite far beneath the rest of the teams, they'll probably play 13 matches in a single year. That's 4 for each stage, and then once in the relegation match. So if you're a big fan of an American Pro League team and they suck, you're only going to be able to see this team play 13 games, assuming they don't play outside of official, Pro League tournaments, which they probably wouldn't, to be honest. Which I would say is a bummer. Obviously, most teams will be playing more than 13 because they'll be playing in majors, they'll be playing in the North American qualifiers, etc., etc. But it's possible for a team to play as little as 13. In the Canadian League, it'll be as little as 7 if you lose every single game, and I think that's probably likely in the Canadian League due to how the qualifiers are gonna happen for the Canadian Pro League. But that's not for this video to get into. So if you're just a fan of one team and you just want to watch them a lot throughout the year, you don't get that many games, right? In the previous system, if you liked a really crappy Pro League team and you just wanted to have a party and watch their games every single time, you got 14 nights times 2 because we're going over the course of the year. So you got 28 nights where you can just sit down and be like, okay, I'm watching my team tonight. It could be a lot less in this new system. It could be more if the team's going to a lot of majors, but it was also a lot more if your team is going to majors in the last system. So there's less consistent games, and some teams are just not going to play that often. However, they'll be best of 3s. Another big loss, I would say, for GSL format, and this is one that comes up a lot in criticisms, is in order to qualify out of the top 2, and you could make the same argument for the group stages of majors and stuff. It's possible to just beat the same opponent twice and qualify, right? If you lose your opening matchup, if you win your opening matchup, then lose the winner's matchup, and then win the decider matchup, you possibly will just defeat the same team twice, and you'll be good to go. And statistically, if it's if the bracket is seeded correctly ahead of time and better team always beats the worst team, you'll actually see that every single time with the second place team beating the third place team, losing the first place team, and then beating the third place team again to qualify. There's also the argument that, well, what if the second and third place team are very close and the second place team beats the third place team in the opening matchups, then the first place team wins, the fourth place team loses in elimination. Now the third place team beats the second place team. Well, both these teams have beaten each other once, lost to each other once. They both have 1 win and 1 loss. Well, no, that's not true. But still, they've played against very different level of teams in their other games. So why does this make up the difference, really? I think that's a fair criticism as well. It doesn't necessarily reward the team that wins the most, rewards the team that wins like later, at least in those individual head-to-head matches. So that's, I would say, a big criticism of this format as well. Is you could have, this team and that team, the second and third place team, both beat each other once, lost to each other once, but one of them, goes ahead because they won later rather than sooner. The other thing I want to figure out is how are the North American finals teams going to be decided? In the video and in the broadcast as well, they basically just say, the top 4 teams from US are going to go in and they're going to battle for that top spot. The top 2 teams from Canada are going to battle for the championship, as well as the bottom team from America and the bottom team from Canada are going to play the top teams from Challenger League. Which sounds great, it really does, until you ask yourself, well, what are the top 4 teams in America? Are those going to be, or in any leagues really, are those just going to be focusing on stage 3, like the teams that won basically the very first round, like got into that upper bracket, into that upper GSL bracket? Or is that going to be like throughout the entire season in terms of like points, right? Which teams have the most invitational qualifier points? That would be a big question in my mind. And if it goes to the points, which I think it should, because I think the whole year should reflect which teams get invited to the finals and which ones have to play in relegations, then the question becomes, well, how does it work for Challenger League? Are Challenger League teams just getting like qualifier points to get into Pro League? That was never mentioned, which makes me assume that it's just going to be the third like split basically, or the last split in year 2020. It'll be only 2 splits. It's just going to be the last split which decides which Challenger League team gets first, which is again a little bit questionable because that means that the second split the first split in 2020 is completely irrelevant, because other than just not getting dead last, which you can accomplish by just winning a single best of 3. So that's another confusing aspect in my mind. Never have I found a good answer to that. So that's a little bit confusing to me. And I don't see a great way of doing that. If you do it over the course of the whole year, then why would one league be over the course of the whole year instead of the second? I guess you would do points for both of them. But then if points are too low in the first couple of splits, at least for Challenger League teams, there might not be any reason to play hard in that third split. Also, there's relegation and promotion happening between open qualifier teams and Challenger League teams between every single split. So how would that work for Challenger League? Is it going to be like full year for Pro League against just the third split for Challenger League that's going to matter? There's a ton of questions with that and how the North American finals are actually going to work. Honestly, don't know how to answer those questions. But the GSL format makes it pretty confusing, at least in my mind. You also have a lot of irrelevant games, and I think that's something that GSL format typically tries to fix. And again, in a group stage format like at the majors, it does fix that because 2 teams qualify, 2 teams don't, and that's that. And so it works. But in a lot of the ways that it seems to be employed here, they're going to be relatively irrelevant games other than just small differences in points for invitational qualifiers, which do matter, don't get me wrong, but they're a lot less impactful than I think they otherwise could be. So the irrelevant games are going to be almost all of the Canada games, because in a specific stage, all that matters is getting first for Canada. The first place team will be getting points in the Canadian division. The second, third, and fourth do not get any points at all towards the Six Invitational. And unless it's stage 3, they're not getting relegated either. Or, not stage 3, I guess, split 3. No, it's called stage 3. So, essentially, if you lose a single best of 3 in the Canadian division, there's no real point in trying. The opening matches matter, the winners match matters, and then that team's getting first no matter what, because it's not a double elimination bracket, it's just a GSL bracket. So, second, third, and fourth are irrelevant. And other than those first 3 games, which are essentially just a single elimination bracket, nothing matters for the Canadian division, which I think is a little bit disappointing. And I'm based on the video and that alone, I'm pretty confident that is how it works, which is unfortunate to me. The other irrelevant games, obviously, in the first set of GSL brackets in the American Pro League, or the American League division, American division of the North American League. Those will all matter, but when you go into the second round, all that matters is getting top 2, or top 3, I should say, which means that if you win your opening matchup, the winner's game doesn't actually matter to you, because if you win, you get first. If you lose, you get second or third, which both qualify to the major. There might be slightly different seedings, but it's not going to be that important of a game. Likewise, the decider match for the winners group in the second round of GSL games won't really matter. The only games that are going to matter are the opening games and the losers matchup, because you don't want to lose both of those, right? Otherwise, the games are irrelevant for the second, round of GSL qualifiers for the winners group. The losers group should all matter, because 8th gets different result from 7th, which gets different results from 5th and 6th. So that should all matter. Not that 7th has a chance to go to the major, but 7th will get points, whereas 8th will not. So that's a big difference and a reason to play for it there. But there's still some irrelevant games in the North America, or in the American division, just like there's a ton in the Canadian division. The alternatives to the GSL format are the primary ones will be round robin, which is what we've seen previously in Pro League. Every team plays another team twice, usually, maybe once, maybe 3 times. Like, you could change that up, which is nice because you get a ton of different games. Because of that, typically it has to be reduced down to best of 1, sometimes with ties. I think you could take the ties out and round robin will still work just fine, but you probably do need to run those as best of 1s. But I like that the games are more spread out. I think that it's better for fans to be able to watch their favorite team play on multiple different play days rather than just one big game every now and again. So that's nice for round robin. Obviously, round robin does have some irrelevant games towards the end of the season when positions are locked up and teams really can't move around. It's really up to how the teams have done to determine how many games are irrelevant. It could be no games are irrelevant, or it could be almost every game in the last week or 2 are irrelevant. More likely than not, it's gonna be somewhere in the middle. So certainly round robin might not be the best situation. The other option is Swiss, which kind of gets the best of both worlds in my mind. Swiss is obviously a format that's been used before in Siege for qualifiers. It's also been used a lot in CSGO majors, as group stages before you get into the actual playoffs. And I really, really like Swiss. You basically just keep playing opponents of your record until you win a certain amount or lose a certain amount. Usually it's 3 games. And depending on how many teams you have and which positions matter, teams will be playing for longer or shorter, and you can adjust those. But there should be a way to basically divvy up the spots as the Pro League wants to, whilst keeping with Swiss, and it makes that every game is relevant, which are again problems that GSL in this context and round robin can't claim. They can't claim that every game is relevant. But every game is relevant in Swiss, and it's quite a few games too. You could see a team, again, if it depends how many teams are playing, but you could see teams play six games in a split, or as few as 3 sometimes, which might not seem like a ton. But again, you can keep those best of 3s. You can keep games being as best of 3s, or you could do a mix of best of 1s and best of 3s, with best of 1s happening, when a team is only 1-1 or 2-1. But as soon as something is important on the line, you could get eliminated or you could qualify, then it turns into a best of 3. So it keeps things exciting. It kind of balances things well. Again, I know I'm not explaining this phenomenally, but it's very difficult to do so for tournament systems, and I recommend you take a look at previous CSGO majors to really figure out what I'm talking about when I talk about the Swiss format, because I really do think that CSGO majors have done it right. In terms of running good Swiss formats, you also might be aware of it if you were playing in any qualifier for invitationals or majors or Challenger League, because Swiss has been used a couple times in Siege there. So it's a nice format. I would prefer Swiss. The last thing I have to say about this, GSL format in Pro League is we've done this before and it didn't work out great. Seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7 all had regular seasons of GSL, which were just honestly not great seasons in my opinion. Some people, when we switched to a round robin in season 8, they complained. They said, "Oh, I don't like ties. Oh, I don't like best of 1s." which was fair. And I get that those are criticisms, and I get why those are reasons why people would prefer GSL formats. But in my opinion, we left that system for a reason, and we should not be going back to it because it's just not great. Of course, how that worked in previous seasons was you would have, again, your initial two groups decided somewhat just by organizers seeding them, and then they would sort of take the top two teams and put them into a bracket, like a playoff bracket. The bottom two teams are kind of irrelevant. They don't really play any more games. This is a little bit different because it's not a double elimination bracket. Well, it was a single elimination bracket, really. So it's not a bracket this time. It's another GSL for the winners, and then it's also a GSL for the losers. So it's different from what we've seen in seasons 4, 5, 6, and 7, but it is similar in a lot of ways as well. And I don't know. I just didn't think those leagues were as exciting as what we got in seasons 8, 9, 10, and 11. But that's my opinion, and I'm glad that you were listening to me ramble here. I know it was a long one. I know that this one was probably really, really difficult to follow. Again, if you are very lost, probably should have said this at the beginning of the video, but definitely do go back, watch the video, take a look at like the CSGO formats for majors, take a look at other times where we've seen GSL, such as in the major and invitational group stages, and let me know what you think. Assuming that a couple people were able to follow along with this relatively well, let me know if you like the GSL format, if you've watched the video, you understand it, and you think that it is better for a Rainbow Six season to be playing like this, or if you prefer the old system where we got like 14 matches in a split, or 7 matches in a split and 4 splits over the course of the season, and you got lots of chances to see your teams play, even though it was best of ones and there were ties. So yeah, let me know what you think. More videos coming soon, more exciting news coming soon, hopefully. But otherwise, yeah, stay tuned for more videos like this, and I will see you next time. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.